everybody. It's game time. I'm Kristen Ledlow, joined by our analysts, Greg Anthony, Tom Pinn. Guys, free agency is officially underway, and as of this taping, it bears mentioning, it started several hours ago. So let's get into some of the news that we're waiting on before we get into the news that we've seen already. The NBA champion Anthony Davis topping the list of notable free agents available, though available may not be the most appropriate adjective. AD recently opted out of his player option, but he is expected to sign a long-term deal to stay in LA. Earlier today, ESPN reported AD's desire to wait until after Thanksgiving to put pen to paper. Gordon Hayward of the Boston Celtics also opted out of his player option in order to explore free agency. He averaged more than 17 points and 6 rebounds in 52 games for the C's last season. But some other teams have gained some traction here, though. Earlier this week, the Wall Street Journal calling Fred VanVleet the undrafted $100 million player. And despite being one of the best players available on the open market, ESPN has reported it's very likely that he returns to the Raptors, as the team does have the ability to offer a 5-year contract right in the range of $138 million. But like I said, we've got to get into what has happened today, guys, because there has been a lot. According to his agent, Danilo Gallinari has agreed to join the Atlanta Hawks for 3 years with a contract worth $61.5 million. He spent last season with the OKC Thunder after signing a similar contract with the Clippers back in 2017. GA, let me start with you. What is the expectation here for Gallo in ATL?
Well, I think it's a great sign, first and foremost, for Atlanta. This is a team that they've got a budding star, obviously, with Trae Young, but they need veteran leadership, and they need guys that can be productive. And Danilo Gallinari has been one thing, and that's productive throughout his entire career. I think he fits in seamlessly. Plus, he has the ability to play multiple positions. He can play the stretch four. He can play the small forward position. He gets to the free throw line. I think it's a great get for them, and it shows you that it's a team that's trying to take that next step to get to the postseason, and Gallinari is, I think, a welcome asset for the Hawks.
How important, Tom, can that veteran leadership be for this team?
If it's the right veteran, it's critical, and he is the right veteran for all the reasons Greg said, but also he's just a great pro. He's a great locker room guy. He just shows up and does his work. Certain free agents come in, expecting to get a ring. Of course, only one team gets a ring, and then you get drama that follows after that. I want out of here, I don't. Gallinari's going to show up every day. He's going to perform the way Greg said, and then he's going to help nurture the young guys along and advance them from just being early legit to being maybe playoff legit sooner rather than later in Atlanta.
Well, also, according to his agent, Joe Harris has agreed to a 4-year deal worth $75 million to return to Brooklyn. Tom, let me stay with you because we may know little about what the Nets roster this season is going to look like, but a shooter to surround any potential superstars has got to be a beneficial signing.
That's right. All those shots being knocked down pays off, right, Joe? Good for you. Makes a lot of sense because you're going to get a lot more open looks with those other two guys coming along. The Kyrie and KD show is going to create so many wide open looks, toe the line, knock it down with confidence. He's proven he's pressure packed as well. He's done it and performed well as they had their innocent rise without the all-stars there. Now he's got all-star support. It's going to be very interesting to see how well he performs. This was their main priority. They got it done.
Also, a shooter used to knocking down shots, Davis Bertans, who opted out of the NBA's restart on campus in Orlando, has also agreed to a 5-year deal worth $80 million to stay in D.C. and play for the Wizards. This, according to his agent, the deal will include an early termination option in year 5. GA, when this deal is inked, his decision to opt out of the restart to protect his health will likely have been the best one.
Yeah, and in fairness to Davis, I don't think he was worried about the free agency. I think he had already cemented that with how well he had performed. Remember, this is a guy who had doubled his scoring average, shot almost 43% from three on twice as many attempts from the year prior. Just a solid player. Plus, he gives you more versatility because of the size, right? He can play literally 3 positions for you and spacing. It's not just about his ability to make shots. It's about, just like with Joe Harris, it's about their ability to space the floor. It gives more room for your better players to play. And so this was an invaluable signing for the Wizards, one that I, in a lot of ways, felt like was a foregone conclusion. He was such a valuable piece of the puzzle for the Wizards moving forward.
Well, let's head out to the Western Conference because this was, well, fun, we'll call it. Dwight Howard tweeting, then deleting. I'm staying right where I belong, Laker Nation. I love y'all. Purple and gold never gets old. Again, the tweet was taken down minutes later. Then The Athletic reported his agreement with the Philadelphia 76ers, a one-year deal worth $2.6 million, according to ESPN. Also reported by The Athletic, the reigning champion Lakers nearing a deal with Sixth Man of the Year Montrezl Harrell. Patrick Beverley initially tweeting, again, a lot of fun on NBA Twitter this evening. With several choice emojis. But then he did come back and say, for real, I'm happy for him though. So let me start with you, GA, on Dwight. What's going to be expected from him in Philly?
Well, listen, I'm a little shocked that he decided to go that route. The minutes are going to be there based on how much Joel plays. Remember, this is not a scenario where he's going to be on the floor with Joel Embiid. He is purely going to play backup minutes. And at this stage of his career, it's probably all he was going to get anyway. It's just a matter of what are you looking to do big picture. It does put him back with Daryl Morey, but this is a guy that did help the Lakers win a championship, played a vital role. And now he gets to go to Philadelphia and see if he can help that team get to the finals. I was a little surprised by this, but big picture, if you're the Lakers, I think they got to be thrilled with what they've been able to accomplish thus far this offseason with not just getting Schroeder, but also Montrezl Harrell, because it not only helps their roster, but it also really impacts negatively the Clippers roster in losing him.
Let's talk more about that deal, Tom. How did it go down with Montrez, and do you see him in a similar role off the bench?
Man, how about Montrez? Taking his 19 points a game, his 7 boards, and his Sixth Man of the Year trophy about 82 feet down the Staples Center hallway. Amazing pickup for the Lakers, and what a blow to the Clippers. Montrezl Harrell represented the spirit of that team, the fight. He was beloved by Clipperland, and for him to just go over to the purple and gold, wow, that is a big deal given the importance of the Laker-Clipper battle for the championship out here in the West. And then Dwight, man, put your phone down. There's no reason to tweet before you got a deal, right? And then I don't know why he's in such a hurry to take a deal tonight. Yeah. He basically took something near the minimum. What was the rush? As a veteran with all the money he's made, why not wait and see where you go? But I guess the Sixers really wanted him, and he couldn't get the answer out of the Lakers, and he was just dying to make his announcement. This is really wild.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the 82 feet between those locker rooms that you mentioned at Staples Center, because not only is Wes Matthews as a free agent agreeing, with the reigning champion Lakers on a one-year deal worth $3.6 million, but we're also hearing now, GA, that Marcus Morris will agree to stay with the Clippers as well. So, again, things starting to take shape in LA.
Yeah, if you're the Lakers, I think they're really thrilled. And really to Tom's point, too, for Dwight, you're signing a minimum contract in essence. So you could wait till the day before camp to sign a minimum contract. I mean, that there's no real financial benefit in that regard. And you've given up an opportunity to possibly have a chance to win another World Championship. But in terms of that dynamic between the Clippers and the Lakers, you got to tip your cap. And I was following on social media, people are saying, well, the Clippers proved that Montrez wasn't that valuable. And the point I made, Montrezl Harrell was the third most important player for the Clippers. For the Lakers, he's probably the fifth. That's a big difference. And I think that's why he will.
Here's a look at the most guaranteed money left on contracts around the league, with Damian Lillard and his $257 million over the next 6 years sitting on top. And guys, the frenzy surrounding free agency has begun, but contract extensions worth the conversation as well, especially when they're worth, around $220 million. Because if he wants to, Giannis Antetokounmpo can sign such a contract to stay in Milwaukee for the next 5 seasons. So let me ask you this, GA. He has the opportunity to join this list. Is it a contract that you would sign, or would you explore options elsewhere?
Well, I think if I'm Giannis, I'm going to wait and explore options. And it's not that the numbers aren't ridiculous. They are. But there are a few guys in our league that are going to command those dollars no matter where they go. And ultimately, it's about legacy and competing for championships. And right now, this situation is a lot like what LeBron went through when he first left Cleveland. The question is, if you're Giannis Antetokounmpo, are the Milwaukee Bucks in a position to build a team that's worthy of me being on to compete for a championship? Because ultimately, that's what this is going to be about for him. And so I don't think he signs it. And especially with what just went down in terms of the deal that fell through for Milwaukee, I got to question whether or not I can ultimately get to a championship with this team and this front office. And so he's probably going to wait, knowing that he's going to have some tremendous suitors who have proven that they know what it takes to win a championship, a la Toronto and Miami in that Eastern Conference.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Tom. Let me ask you, because 24 hours ago, the New York Times first reported the league's investigation into this failed sign and trade agreement between the Kings and the Bucks that would have sent Bogdan Bogdanović to Milwaukee. What happened there, and how big a loss could that asset potentially be?
Unsure how big the loss is. Certainly Milwaukee wanted to add him as part of the, hey, Giannis, let's prove that we love you and we're going to be better. But here's a tip for you guys. If you do a secret deal, you're better off keeping it secret. And they went public. This deal got out publicly way ahead of the period of time where you're allowed to negotiate and sign deals. The entire league went crazy, all the executives, because we're supposed to be enforcing these anti-tampering rules. And that's frankly what must have been going on. So the league's now investigating that. Bogdanović has said, I didn't ever agree to anything. I didn't want to do that. And he's on the free agent market. And that deal's blown up. But what's more interesting about Giannis is what's going on or not going on in Miami, because that's the spot for him. And Pat Riley is doing one-year deals, is keeping the gang together, is not taking up any of his cap space for next year so that he can be an available option for a superstar MVP, double MVP type talent. You know who that is. So as long as Miami's got that room, I would expect Giannis to have one eye looking down to South Beach.
but don't we all always? The Bucks, though, have agreed to a trade with the Pelicans that lands Drew Holiday. But as I mentioned earlier in the show, Wes Matthews has agreed with the reigning champion Lakers on a one-year deal. Do you see the moves being made by Milwaukee as enough to keep him? Or do you think that perhaps not only does he have one eye down on South Beach, but perhaps one foot out the door?
Well, I don't even think he's got an eye elsewhere. I just think he wants to see how next season plays out. Because remember, again, this is a team that the last 2 years, they were the one seed in the Eastern Conference, and they didn't win the Eastern Conference. And so I think the fact that they're making these moves, okay, we all think they're positive moves, but that's not the question. The question is, are they enough to get over the hump? And that's what remains to be seen, and we're going to find out this upcoming season. If I'm Giannis, if I'm his representation, and this is the beauty of the leverage guys have today, he's not worried about his future. He could get hurt this year. We saw it with Kevin Durant. He still signed a max deal, right? So he knows that's going to be there for him. What he doesn't know what's going to be there for him is a chance to win a championship in Milwaukee, and that's why I think they're going to wait to see how this season plays out.
Well, speaking of max deals, De'Aaron Fox became the first in free agency to agree to a maximum contract extension worth $163 million over the next 5 seasons with the Sacramento Kings. He did average a career-best 21 points and nearly 7 assists a game last season at, the ripe old age of 22. So, Tom, what does this deal this soon say about the importance that the Kings have placed upon his being the face of the franchise?
Wow, they think he's the man to commit to him early and to give him the full boat. You typically do that for somebody that's taking you to the playoffs, that you believe you can build around. Fox has had good production, but in today's NBA game, everybody's numbers are quite inflated. I just haven't seen the type of franchise level pillar out of him that warrants this kind of deal early. I don't know what you think, Greg.
I get what you're saying, and I agree with you. He's gotten better every year. I think the other thing it does, though, Tom, is it shows everybody you're committed to winning. And that's one less guy we have to discuss moving forward. We can put our attentions and focus on free agents, draft, prospective trades, knowing that our cornerstone at the point guard position is going to be here for the next 6 years.
Well, Game Time will continue after the break as we continue to track these first few hours of the NBA's free agency, including Goran Dragic. Goran Dragic wasted no time agreeing to a return to Miami, joking that Jimmy Butler called him last week and suggested physical violence may come his way if he didn't. Here's what he posted. Check it out.
Hey guys, follow me. Hey Miami, it's nice to be back in Miami Heat uniform. This morning I woke up and see all these posters around my house. What an amazing surprise. Can't wait to be back to work and let's go Heat.
His deal will be for the next 2 years with a team option in the second year. Myers Leonard has also agreed to return to Miami for 2 years on a deal worth nearly $20 million. And, guys, Udonis Haslem, that's right. He's free to suit up for the Heat for the 18th consecutive season. He's 40, by the way. I didn't mean to skip right over Kelly Olynyk, but that bared mentioning. So as this team is shaping up, not shaking out by any means, they may very well have what it takes to run it back to the NBA Finals. But elsewhere in the Eastern Conference, the Detroit Pistons also wasting no time. As free agency begins, agreeing with, let's see here, we've got Mason Plumlee on a 3-year deal worth $25 million, Jahlil Okafor for the next 2 seasons, and Josh Jackson, who also grew up in Detroit, but headlining that group, Jeremy Grant on a 3-year deal worth $60 million, according to The Athletic. But what's going on with Christian Wood? Conflicting reports here had Wood agreeing to a 3-year deal with Houston Rockets worth $27 million, and then that he would remain engaged with interested teams. But most recently, ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski has said this deal is expected to be a sign and trade. Into the Western Conference, the Utah Jazz have reached agreements with Jordan Clarkson and Derek Favors in these first few hours of free agency. According to ESPN, Clarkson's contract worth $52 million to stay in Utah for the next 4 seasons, and Favors has agreed to 3 worth $30 million. And not only will Rodney Hood stay in Portland, but he'll get a raise to do so, as you can see here, and the Blazers will acquire Enes Kanter from Boston in a 3-team trade. Earlier in the week, the team agreed with Houston on a trade for Robert Covington, and Derrick Jones Jr. has agreed to a 2-year deal worth $19 million. Now, when we come back, Raptors fans held on to that reigning champion title for a year and a half, but they may not see their team in Toronto for a while. We'll discuss the latest next. According to Shams Charania, Wizards all-star guard John Wall wants out of Washington. Now, he hasn't played a game in, since December of 2018 due to a variety of injuries, including a torn ACL that kept him on the bench last season. He is due about $130 million over the next 3 seasons. And, of course, he had been mentioned in trade rumors to Houston for Russell Westbrook. Also in the Eastern Conference, but a little bit north due to COVID-19 travel restrictions between the U.S. and Canada, the Toronto Raptors plan to start their season in Tampa, Florida. Now, there's reportedly no plan yet in place for how long the team will stay or where the team will host practices and games. So I do want to ask you guys, with the minute that we have left before we go, about John Wall. GA, I'll start with you. Where do you think he could be the best fit?
Oh, God, I have no idea. This was a mistake from the front office standpoint. They let it get out about a potential trade with Russell Westbrook, and I think that kind of started the domino. But to your point, he hasn't played in 2 years. They're saying he's got all of his explosiveness back, but that is a hefty contract to take on with as much uncertainty about whether or not he can get back to where he was prior to the injury.
Tom, what do you think?
I mean, come on. 4-year extension, $171 million. Then you're hurt. You're not able to play. Not your fault. But it is your fault if all of a sudden you start demanding to leave and get a trade. I mean, give me a break, GA. This one is hard to stomach when you see a guy under these circumstances, as good as that organization's been. Wow.
So I should have asked the question differently then, as neither of you told me where he could be a good fit.
No.
But we are all out of time. Guys, a pleasure as always. That'll do it for Game Time. For Greg Anthony and Tom Penn, I'm Kristen Ledlow. We'll see you
I
next
want to
time.
trade.
Yeah.
Yeah.